A city centre committee group will present to council tonight ways to help bring those changes into the CBD. The Lord Mayor, Alderman John McNaughton, says that the committee group has completed an exhaustive study on problems facing the area. He added that Newcastle's business community is keen for council to help bring in changes to local commercial, industrial and retail centres. Council has already shown an initial willingness to look at those plans. Alderman McNaughton predicts the council tonight will agree with a number of the City Centre Committee's suggestions. Already, plans are in place for specific developments, the details which will be released in tonight's meeting.
Around 20 athletes from Newcastle and the Hunter Valley will attempt to gain places in the Australian team on December the 2nd and 3rd. Chad Stevenson and Paul Henderson come into calculations, as do David Forbes, David Rundle and Jason Maxwell. Joe Bugner will be making a comeback to competition, and he will be joined by Fiona McCarthy, Warren Roach, Dara Johnston, Robert Mitchison and Anthony Franks. 5 other athletes were at the Newcastle track today, putting the finishing touches to their preparations. Linda Garden is right on line to represent her country once again in the long jump. Simon Atkins will have a tough battle in the 400 metres as he's up against Darren Clark and co. Jeremy Owens will hurl the javelin and will gain a lot of experience from the meeting. And Rachel Klein, along with the little flyer Joanne Debman, will compete in the 400 and 1500 metres respectively. Along with training today, a throwing clinic was held with expert coaches from around Australia passing on their knowledge. National Coaching Coordinator Tony Rice believes the program now is reaping some rewards.
There's been a lot of development in the throws in Australia in the last 4 or 5 years, and we're now getting to a stage where our top throwers are real world international throwers. We saw that in 86 and 88 with our juniors getting placed in finals at World Junior Championships, and that talent's now coming through. So yes, it's, we're really kicking ahead with the throws.
Returned servicemen and women representing Australia's participation in 2 world wars and many other theatres of combat braved intermittent showers to pay tribute to those comrades who didn't return. Once again, the gathering observed the traditional silence on the 11th hour of the 11th day. Later, Lady Mayoress Margaret McNaughton led the hymn, unperturbed by the downpour. Politicians, service personnel and others from many walks of life laid wreaths or books at the foot of the Cenotaph before reflecting on the sacrifices made in the name of freedom. The rail motor rolled into Broadmeadows Station early this morning to take eager travellers on a one-off trip into the Hunters Vineyards and then on to the historic goldfields of Gulgong, Hill End and ultimately Bathurst. The so-called tin hair was once the only way to travel, whether you liked it or not. But thanks to the passage of time, the Rail Motor Society's fully restored vintage train is now an exciting alternative to modern rail transport. The tin hair isn't the most luxurious way to go, but passengers will have plenty of distractions as they travel the famous Sandy Hollow rail link to Gulgong. That's where the explorers will spend the night before heading to Bathurst tomorrow and returning home by coach.
Vehicles range from buggies with varying amounts of horsepower to Baja Volkswagens, sedans and 4-wheel drives, and the drivers and navigators found conditions to their liking. Cliff Alderton blitzed the opposition to win the over 1600cc Class 1 and also the outright trophy. Barry Johnson was second to Alderton. Other division winners were Neil Duck in Class 2, Kelvin Page and Craig Baker took out the 3rd and 4th classes respectively. Graham Horn and Jeff Bryant the 5th division, while Graham Baxter shone to grab a win in Class 8 for 4-wheel drives. At Maitland, the Raymond Terrace Pony Club hosted the Zone 25 18th Jamboree, with riders representing clubs from Bulladilla, Myall Lakes, Gloucester, Stroud, Dungog, Wollombi, Belmont and also Nelson Bay. Over 34 events were contested, from barrel races to flag races, hares riding as well as show jumping. All competition is designed to improve the horsemanship of the youngsters, and today there was ample evidence that there's great talent in the valley. Cessnock Tennis Club conducted the Jack Crawford Shield today, a battle between the Still Cities, Wollongong and Newcastle. And for the 2nd year in a row, it was the visitors who won the day. Wollongong dominated to win 18 sets and pick up the Shield by 4. With so much competition for the entertainment dollar in the West End of Newcastle, it has been tough for the licensed premises of the Newcastle Leagues Club to make ends meet. The emphasis of rugby league has been shifted to the International Sports Centre, which houses the Knights and the administration of the local league. At the moment, it looks as though the club will be forced to close its doors.
The Leagues Club have unfortunately aren't trading very well, and as I understand it, the Board of Directors of the Leagues Club are heading towards a voluntary liquidation after their annual meeting on the 10th of December. I know the Newcastle Rugby League would like to help out and to keep the club going, but we just haven't got the resources at the moment to be able to do it.
Options open to the league include vacating the building, leasing the premises or selling, the latter option being the more favoured at the moment.
I think that's a general idea, Mike, that if the club is sold, well then it would be invested to help to run the NRL. Even if it's leased, well then the rental would have to be such as to compare to what the Leagues Club were paying, so that we could continue to run the league.
When George Bonzio tried to place his monthly phone call to his sister in East Germany last night, he found all the lines into the country were jammed. How his sister and other family members will cope with the rapid events of the past few days is of obvious concern to him.
I think it has come a little quick and sudden, this surge, this revolution, I would call it, really. And I'm a bit concerned about the repercussions this could have when you consider the events in China and things went wrong. And I hope it doesn't go wrong here for the German people.
George has been president of the Germania Club, famed for its Oktoberfest celebrations, for the past year and a half, and says the majority of members are from East Germany. That country's flag is conspicuous by its absence, alongside those of Australia, West Germany, Austria and Switzerland that adorn the club's walls. The flag was banned because of the severe restrictions placed on East Germans, but now all that has changed. There's been talk of a united Germany. What could be the dangers of this?
It could be too great a danger for America, Russia, France and England. They think the Germans might get the idea that they could start another world war.
And he has advice for his former countrymen.
I would urge them to stay in East Germany, travel whenever they want to travel to West Germany, shop there if they have the money, because the East German mark is not worth anything, it's not even listed on any market, and stay put and build from the inside out rather than run away and wreck the lot.
H&REA spokesman Malcolm Martin said today he has seen correspondence indicating this could start next year, resulting in service to the public being compromised.
Now, if the Department of Health was to dismantle this maintenance of rosters, you would have the scenario that is current in Sydney, which is that when there is a staff shortage, when there's sickness, the car or the ambulance is taken off the road to the point where it is a frequent occurrence that ambulance stations are closed.
Hunter Ambulance Management, however, says maintenance of rosters began 10 years ago and there are no plans to change. The ambulance men have also decided to cease negotiations for the extension of a successful rotating paramedics roster to all operational staff. The paramedics work 2 long days, 2 longer nights and then have 4 full days off. Ordinary ambulance men work an 8-hour day. The stumbling block is the need for an extra 5 or 6 staff, the cost of whom the HNREA says would be made up in overtime cuts.
The Department of Health is saying no, you will have to work within the constraints of your present staff complement. And what they have done is taken our rosters and revamped them, with the result that some officers are being asked to take a further wage cut of up to $24 a week.
2 Hunter paramedics, Terry Watson and Ken Isles, are soon off to Israel under the Med Exchange program sponsored by the Jewish community in Australia. They trade places with 2 Israelis, Zev Bittman and Eli Peretz, who've already spent some time in Sydney. And Zev had a surprising observation to make of life here.
Yeah, we were very surprised about the numbers of narcotic people that you are having here, of overdose people. We have just... we use the same drug for narcotics, but I'm working for 10 years already, and I gave it only once, and here I gave it 10 times in one day in Sydney.
Terry and Ken will leave on Sunday for 3 weeks, visiting Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Tiberias and Haifa.
After 2 seasons, the Knights are still some way from a premiership but have run out clear winners in the Supporters Stakes. The zealously partisan crowd of the Hunter Valley stretched the limits of the ISC at every major game and put the Knights up with the Brisbane Broncos as the best supported clubs in the competition. The average home crowd of 20,000 pulled in almost $1 million, contributing to the overall income of about $3 million, the remainder mostly made up of sponsorship and membership fees. But it wasn't nearly enough to cover expenses. The club ran up a deficit of almost $400,000. More than half that went in repayments on the enormous loan taken out by the club to transform the International Sports Centre. As for the remainder...
We had budgeted optimistically, and we deliberately bought $360,000 worth of players. Now, we knew we couldn't do that this year with the ceiling cap coming in, so it was last year or never.
Max Fox says it will be years before the Knights are debt-free, but with increased sponsorship, says the books will balance in 1990.
I think we can have a budget that will run at a small profit, but when you're talking of small profit, you're talking $50,000, and I would expect that hopefully we'd cut square.
Of much more immediate concern to the Knights is a power struggle threatening to erupt at the annual general meeting next month. 2 of the Knights' most prominent employees, Assistant Manager Graham Hards and Marketing Manager Lee Morn, have circulated a motion which, if it's passed at the meeting, will mean greatly reduced power for the Newcastle Rugby League.
The motion would see the NRL membership reduced and open the top positions to any board member.
I think it's about loyalty and procedures, policy procedures and principles. And 2 or 3 of those 3 things haven't been followed as far as I'm concerned as a board of director.
According to Kevin Smith, both signatories of the motion are Knights employees first and should have told the board of their intentions.
Well, I don't think that's being disloyal at all. Like, I've been around the Knights since their inception. I've worked hard. I'm a part of the Knights.
A similar motion was defeated 2 months ago. Kevin Smith says the issue is being raised again in an attempt to oust Chairman Max Fox.
There are people that want to take control of the Knights over Max Fox and aren't prepared to come forward.
If there is such a push, it's coming from someone I don't know of yet, or some group I don't know of. But that's their democratic right. If they think they can do better with their president, that's up to them to get him elected on the board, and then he'd be elected by the board.
A drive through Newcastle Central Business District reveals a fair smattering of closing down sales, vacant shops and for lease signs. The situation is more pronounced at the western end of the city, but even the more prosperous Hunter Mall and the East End haven't escaped the hard times.
All you've got to do is walk from the top of Hunter Street to the bottom and see how many stores are closing down.
But now there's a push to revitalise the city's heartland. The scheme was drawn up by a special advisory committee established by Newcastle Council. It rests on the establishment of a city centre management office, a shopfront operation which will employ a promotions manager and an investment and development manager to coordinate the rejuvenation.
It will involve, as I say, the promotion of the city, the promotion of the shops that are there. It will involve getting the mix of shops correct so that we know what sort of shops we need, and it will involve all the businesses combining together to promote it as one unit, one entity.
Council will invest $300,000 to run the city centre office for 12 months. If the office comes up with the goods, CBD ratepayers will pay a special levy to fund the program in future years. But what of the competition? The CBD's major retail competitors have poured millions into enticing shoppers. Just how far will $300,000 go in the face of such big spending opposition?
All we've got to do is lift our game a little bit. It's not as if we've got to start again, because whilst they're spending millions on promotion, we're spending millions on promotion too. Every business in here, all the shops and the businesses all promote themselves. All we've got here is better, as I say, better cohesion, and it's all going to happen in a more managed way.
So you're confident this will do the trick and revive the CBD?
Oh, I'm certain it will.
Rescuing Australians from critical situations or rushing them to hospital makes for a very different job. Ambulance officers daily face pressures and situations most of us confront rarely in our lives. It's stressful work demanding the right sort of attitude, an attitude revealed most noticeably by the service's own Conduct Awards. Family and friends gathered at the Hamilton Depot this afternoon to honour 35 men and women who'd gone beyond the call of duty. The most prestigious awards went to ambulance officers Ken Tooby and David Tucker. The men received certificates acknowledging their quick action in November last year when they broke into a burning house and rescued several people. The same fire spawned the first civilian awards the Hunter Ambulance Service has presented. Paul Williams and Kim Siebert were also at the fire. The service says their selfless work also helped save lives.
Just checking the other car. Hunter teachers vote for more strike action despite a pay offer from the Education Minister. Schools will close for 2 half-day stoppages in the next 4 weeks.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Workers on the ground ran for cover as the giant crane started its descent. The crane is used by contractors at the station, carrying out refurbishing works including the installation of filters. The giant lifter had just completed manoeuvring a 2-tonne piece into position on top of the 20-metre high station when the crane lost all power. As the crane was drained of all its hydraulics, the driver wrestled with the cabin controls to try and guide the steel structure away from workers and across the conveyor belts. The crane's jig hit the conveyor incline and dislodged only a few sheets of corrugated iron. A second crane was quickly brought in to stabilise the fallen section. Mechanics and Department of Industrial Relations inspectors hope to have a full report on the accident by tomorrow.